CBS, America's #1 independent television network, presents the following sports exclusive.
First and goal from the 2. Watson rolls to the right. Watson throws for a touchdown! In the right flat, Hunter Renfrow scores with 1 second to go for the Clemson Tigers.
They're going to air it out. Rodgers does this better than anybody. End zone, Cobb, touchdown! Unbelievable!
Welcome to Basically a Football Show.
Basically a Football Show, Wildcard weekend in the NFL, and the national championship game in college. I'm Zach. That's Greg. Greg, of the playoff games we've seen so far, this is easily the best one. And, you know, despite it being a rematch of last year, which was almost an equally great game, this topped it in so many different ways with Clemson finally knocking off the vaunted Crimson Tide.
That was just an incredible football game. It went back and forth. You had Bama up by double digits at one point. You're thinking Clemson can't come back, and then they do, and then Bama scores that dagger touchdown towards the end. You think that's the end, and then Clemson comes back. Just an amazing football game.
Easily the best championship game since that Texas USC game. I think that this is the best one since that. In maybe the top 3 or 5 of championship games that I can remember. You know, you obviously you got the USC Texas one. You have the Ohio State Miami game. I don't think this lives up to either of those, but it's pretty close. It was a pretty damn good game.
Well, the thing I liked about this one better than Ohio State Miami, and I'll even go a step further, so I like it better than USC Texas, is that this was a high-scoring game, but not a ridiculously high-scoring game like it was with USC Texas, where there was practically no defense in that game. And this one, you had good defense, but you also had good offenses finding a way to break that defense. Ohio State Miami, that one's always going to be tough for me because of the way it ended. This is just one of the all-time greats, and right now maybe in a week you ask me again, I may not feel this way, but right now it's the best one I've seen.
It's up there. So let's walk through this one a little bit. Beginning of the game looked kind of how we thought it was going to happen, right? Alabama goes up 7-0. They go up 14-0. And when Alabama was up 14-0, I was ready to just give Alabama the title midway through the second quarter, right?
Well, yeah, you look at the way Clemson was playing in that first half. The Bama defense was doing what the Bama defense does. They've got a double-digit lead, and you think, this is it. It's over. And then Clemson and Deshaun Watson, they put together a drive, and all of a sudden you're going, okay, maybe not.
Clemson gets the touchdown to make it 14-7 going to half. Alabama's up 17-7. You know, Clemson comes back within 3, and then Alabama gets a 68-yard touchdown pass to O.J. Howard. And, going into the fourth quarter, Alabama's up 10. Going into the fourth quarter, there's no way. There's no way at this point that Clemson is going to win this football game. I just don't see a tangible way for it to happen. And then Clemson scores a minute into the fourth quarter, makes it a 3-point game again. And then Clemson takes the lead with 4:38 left, and all of a sudden, for the first time all season, the first time in a very long while, all the pressure shifted onto Alabama all of a sudden.
Well, that was the first time all season that Alabama had trailed in the fourth quarter. This is something they're completely unfamiliar with at this point. What do? We're not used to this. But
they convert a fourth down on that drive. A couple plays later, Jalen Hurts explodes up the middle, 30 yards to go up 31-28 with 2 minutes left. Bama responds and scores. Even though there was 2 minutes left, it's like, oh, well, okay, Alabama woke up. The defense is going to make a stop here, and that's going to be it. That's going to be the end of it all. Except Clemson, just as they did on the drive before, they just continue to find ways to just make plays. That's simply what it was. The receivers were going up making catches. Mike Williams had a big catch. Leggett with the impressive kind of reaching out catch on the final drive. That catch sets up as a pass interference, puts Clemson at the 2-yard line with 6 seconds left, and Hunter Renfrow catches the 2-yard touchdown pass from Deshaun Watson, put the Clemson Tigers up with 1 second remaining. And I thought Clemson did one of the smarter plays in college football, where when you're up and there's like a couple seconds left, just kick the onside kick and just let the time run out.
Yeah, you roll it.
They didn't let any time run out because they had to kneel it down, but that was smart.
Yeah, it really is, because first off, I think if I remember hearing the ruling right, if they recover the ball on the ground, no time runs off. But let's say that it's just like a typical onside kick and it bounces to a Bama player and you fall on it, and that's it, the game's over. But what you've done is you've taken away any chance of a kickoff return. And if they do recover the ball and get it with 1 second left, they have one Hail Mary shot, and that's it. Sure, we saw on Sunday night that you can complete a Hail Mary, but the odds are very heavily stacked against it. So it was a very, very smart play by Dabo Swinney and the Clemson coaching staff to do that at the end there.
Clemson beats Alabama for the first time since 1905.
All credit to Clemson. They dominated Ohio State in a way that had never been done before under Urban Meyer. And then they come in and they beat what I think everybody agreed was the best team in the country at Alabama. And they're the national champions, and they deserve every bit of it.
We had said it all season that until Alabama lost, why would you have any reason to pick against them?
Exactly. I'm just so impressed with this Clemson team. I mean, they made a run through the playoffs that you can't question it. You can't hang any asterisk on this game. They're the national champions. They deserve it, and that's the end of the story.
For Alabama, to end the game, they go 0 for 12 on third down.
Yeah, that hurt.
I mean, some of that might, the freshman quarterback, sure. Bo Scarborough, the running back who tore up Washington and had the 2 touchdowns early in the game for Alabama, goes down in the middle of the second quarter. You have Steve Sarkisian coming in for Lane Kiffin. Did you think that Sarkisian coming in for Kiffin made that much of a difference?
Theoretically, it shouldn't, because I can't imagine Nick Saban said, okay, we're going to completely change the offense now from what Lane Kiffin was running to what Steve Sarkisian is going to run. It's still the same playbook. It's still the same everything. Now, I don't know what kind of an effect or relationship Kiffin had with the offense versus Sarkisian, but again, it's not like they brought in a new guy. Sarkisian was still there. I think what you ran into here, a couple of things. First off, Scarborough going down probably hurt a little bit. It's tough because there was a lot of things. I don't think Bama played a bad game. They just lost. Did you see anything where Bama did that you thought, wow, they're just not doing this very well?
I think it was just a matter of execution, really.
Yeah.
They didn't connect for whatever reason. And I think part of that, they got a little bit away from the running game, without Scarborough. And I think that obviously hurts. But Jalen Hurts, he's a running quarterback. Mm-hmm. They could have used him a little bit more effectively, maybe. When Scarborough went out, they were trying to throw the ball a little bit more. And Hurts was just missing on some of his passes. The ultimate difference here is, yes, Alabama faltered down the stretch offensively, and they could have scored more. The biggest thing for me still at the end of the game is that Clemson went out and made the plays, 21 points in the fourth quarter. They went up against that Alabama defense, and they made some amazing catches to extend drives. And Deshaun Watson and the receivers just made plays, simply made plays. There's so much analysis that goes into all these football games, the numbers and the yards per whatever and the defense or whatever. Ultimately, and I know this is kind of a cliche to it, but ultimately the things are decided on the football field. And you can have a team that on paper may not have a shot, but if they go out there and just simply make the plays, which is kind of a vague, ambiguous thing.
Right.
And I thought that's what Clemson did.
I'm going to go back to it again. I don't think that Alabama played a bad football game. Clemson just played a better game. Clemson was able to exploit whatever they were able to find and exploit in that Alabama defense. They did it flawlessly, especially in the fourth quarter. And Bama, this is going to be talking about it forever. What happened with Alabama here? I don't think anything happened with Alabama. I think Clemson was just a better team last night.
The thing that will always stick out of this game for Alabama is that 0 for 12 on third down. If they make a couple more of those, who knows how this game turns out. But for any team, anywhere, to go 0 for 12 on third down at any point in a game is going to be a death sentence almost.
That goes back to what you were saying about making the plays and executing. You've got to make those first downs, and they didn't. And Clemson capitalized on it. Everybody's going to want to look at the big picture. What was the game changer here and there? It was probably just a bunch of little things like that if Alabama had done better, they'd be okay. Again, I go back to losing Scarborough probably hurt, but you're Alabama. Your third guy on the depth chart at halfback will probably start for just about every other team in the country. Don't just abandon the running game because your top guy went down, but they seem to kind of do that. A lot of little things that add up, and again, I don't want to take a thing away from this Clemson team. We saw them destroy basically a pretty good Ohio State team and then go out and beat, by all accounts, the best team in the country in the national championship game. So I give them all the credit. They played a great game and they won.
Clemson wins its second national title, the last one in 1981. Do you know who they played in that game?
No idea.
The Big 8 champion Nebraska in the Orange Bowl.
Yeah. I know that 2 years prior to that, they played the Ohio State Buckeyes in what I believe was the Citrus Bowl, and Woody Hayes punched one of their players.
Yeah, where is that? The 1978 Gator Bowl.
Was it the Gator Bowl? Okay, yeah.
17-15 victory over Ohio State and Woody Hayes, who punched linebacker Charlie Bauman in the throat after making a game-clinching interception.
Yeah, and the only surprising thing about that was that it didn't happen sooner. But yeah, Clemson. Well, like you said, I mean, I think this program's come a long way because even when they were good, they were always good with a qualifier that they're going to Clemson somewhere along the way, and they've managed to not do that these last 2 seasons.
Yeah, they've won an ACC title here and there. They would win some bowl games. And they had a very nice program with some nice things, some great traditions and all that. But they weren't any sort of college football power. And I think what Dabo Swinney has done there is make them exactly that. Clemson isn't a team that's going to go away anytime soon, I don't think.
No, he's a good coach. They've got a good program going on there, and they've managed to shed the quote-unquote Clemsoning part of their reputation.
Nick Saban still one short of Bear Bryant, but knowing Alabama, knowing Nick Saban, I think he's going to get it at some point.
Probably next year.
Lamar Miller trying to get outside. Touchdown, Houston. Play fake to Miller. Griffin trying to run to the corner. Osweiler trying to run to the end zone. Touchdown, Houston.
Moving on to the National Football League and Wildcard weekend, which was decidedly unwild. Houston and Oakland, 2 teams wandering in the wilderness without any quarterbacks. The biggest difference in this game was 2 things. The Texans' defense played pretty well, but they played pretty well because Connor Cook was just not good. Connor Cook played like a rookie starting his first game, and Brock Osweiler played like a quarterback that at least started a few NFL games before and won a couple.
Yeah, definitely. Osweiler played, you can't say he played great because I don't think he really did, but he did what they needed him to do, and he did it better than he had been doing it all season. He was very effective and didn't play a bad game, and that was the big difference in this. Looking at Connor Cook in this game, I mean, okay, yeah, it's your first start and all that, but you can't look like a deer in the headlights, and that's kind of what he looked like. Mm-hmm. And almost like he didn't want to be there in a way. And I thought that's not a good sign. I mean, even if it's your first start, it's big pressure and all that. Go out there with the attitude like, hey, we can do this. And I didn't see any of that out of him.
He also didn't get helped. Michael Crabtree dropped several passes that were right in his hands. And if you've got a situation like that, you have to be able to help out your quarterback and grab some balls. Like, maybe not make the spectacular one-handed catches or anything like that, but make the ones that are on your hands.
Yeah.
Chest, which he dropped a couple like that. The Raiders receivers didn't help him out. They tried to run the ball early, and it didn't work. The run got stuffed, and then he had to was forced into passing the ball. And when you got a guy like that and you make him pass when he maybe isn't comfortable yet, then you're going to have, situations like that. And then you get behind early, so you have to throw deep, and he ends up throwing 3 interceptions or whatever. Just not a great performance overall from him. But I don't know what you really expected out of him. I guess to be middle of the road, competent. I don't think even that would have won them the game.
I think the wildly optimistic people, or you're always hanging on that one hope that, like, hey, maybe this is his breakout moment. Maybe we go, wow, look at Connor Cook. Wow, look what he did. It didn't happen, and it rarely does. But he was in a very tough spot. His first NFL start against a pretty good defense on the road. So yeah, the receivers dropping passes didn't help matters any, and they had no running game to go to. And that Texans defense is pretty good.
Right. I think that was the other thing. When it comes to the 2 teams, obviously the quarterbacks one was much better than the other one in this game, and for the defenses were more out of proportion than I thought that they were going to be. That Texans defense, right from the start, Jadeveon Clowney was getting all over that defense or the offensive line because, well, first off, not only were the Raiders dealing with backup quarterbacks, but the starting left tackle, the blindside tackle, was injured. So they had to move the right tackle over to left tackle. And the only reason the right tackle was playing right tackle is because he couldn't play left tackle. So, he was getting eaten up by Jadeveon Clowney, and it was just the defense was all over the guys. And the Texans defense played much better than the Raiders unit, which, it had been a little smoke and mirrors this season. Maybe we thought a lot more of them going into the season, and they didn't have as good of a season as we had expected from them.
I think the Raiders defense is okay at stopping the run, but they're not so good with the pass, which, fortunately for them, they were playing the Texans, but it didn't seem to help matters any. The Raiders, with the loss of Carr, the offensive line being shuffled around like that, they were just up against it. And I don't know if anybody's coming out of this thinking, hey, Houston's actually better than we thought they were. No, they're still a bad team. They're not good.
I think maybe you think they're a little bit better than you thought they were, but that doesn't mean that they're that much better. They were still, people thought they were pretty bad coming in, and that's, they're okay.
Well, and people are getting excited. Brock Osweiler played better. He went 14 for 25 with 168 yards. That's considered a good game out of him.
Right.
That's Connor Cook, 18 of 45. There's your problem right there, 161. One guy, same amount of yardage basically. One guy has a bad game. The other one's like, hey, this is great. Look what Brock Osweiler did. So that just kind of tells you all you need to know about the Texans. They're still not a good team. But Jadeveon Clowney, it was nice to see him kind of break out in this game.
Yeah, and it just kind of makes you think where this Texans team might have been had J.J. Watt been healthy all season.
Right.
If you get J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney together on that line, that's not anything you want to see.
I think they've got the Texans have a lot of nice pieces in place, but they've got to get somebody that can run that offense. Mm-hmm. And I know they just dropped a bunch of money on Brock Osweiler, but here's a newsflash, guys. You still need a quarterback. He's not going to – I think we saw the best of what we're going to see out of him on Saturday, and it's not that great.
It's just – it's hard to convince somebody that they have to do that when they spent $72 million on Brock Osweiler.
Yeah, well, I will give credit to Brock Osweiler and his agent, though, man. They played that situation beautifully.
Yeah, you're not going to cut him, because how much you still have to pay him when you cut him. And you have to keep him around, but he's also not a guy that you think will be your starter. So I think the Texans are definitely in a situation where they have to draft a quarterback at some point in this next draft to try and get somebody to challenge Osweiler, maybe overtake him. Because, look at we'll talk about the Seahawks in a minute, but Russell Wilson wasn't the initial guy.
No.
They had brought in were they one of the ones that brought in Matt Flynn?
Matt Flynn, yep.
They bought Matt Flynn for all the money that he was worth, and then they brought in Russell Wilson in the draft, and then he beat him out in training camp.
Yeah,
and they, it was a tough decision. I remember at the time, but if you have a guy that's playing better than the multi-million-dollar quarterback, you got to do what's best for your football team, and you may just have to bite the bullet and pay Brock Osweiler $72 million to be your backup for a few years.
Yep.
So you can cut him and pay him, a nice wage, but. Yeah, they're gonna have to do something to start building up, the offense there in Houston. But they got enough of it on Saturday. So
yeah, just barely enough. But if you look at going back to the Seattle situation for a second, from a financial standpoint, that was a disaster for the Seahawks. But they don't care because the writing on that contract is blinded by the shine off the Super Bowl rings they won with Russell Wilson. You're right. You've got to do what's best for the team. And, maybe Osweiler turns into a better quarterback. Maybe it's just, this is really his first year as a starter. Who knows? But if I'm the Texans going into this draft, I'm taking a serious look at the best quarterback on the board when my turn comes around.
Yeah, no, definitely. But, again, still miles better for the Texans this year than last year, where they got shut out at home last year.
Yeah.
Now they win a wild card game. And that's all they're going to get because they move on to take on the New England Patriots in Foxborough in what's going to be sub 30 degrees, sub freezing temperatures. Doesn't look like there's going to be any weather necessarily, just cold and partly cloudy. But still, for a team that plays in a dome and a team that's not all that good even playing in that dome on the road to play Tom Brady and the Patriots, they're gonna get dismantled.
I think if the Texans somehow would win this game, it would have to rank in the top 5 upsets of all time in the NFL, right?
Truly. Yeah.
I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but it's not going to happen. They're done. But at least they got past the first round this year, so give them that.
Yeah, they got past the first round. They didn't get shut out. So all in all, probably best victory the Texans could hope for. But like many an AFC South champion before them, they will win their first round playoff game, feel nice about it, go to Foxborough and get dump trucked. It's just what's probably going to happen.
On 3rd and 1, and they're going to run the ball, and rolls again, bursts through the line of scrimmage. There's Wilson down there to throw a block to help spring him. Over right guard, Thomas rolls for the touchdown. Wilson goes that way, and you've got 2 guys there, and Baldwin catches it.
Move on to Saturday nights in Seattle. even less of a game than the Raiders-Texans game was. Raiders-Texans was kind of close at the beginning, and you thought, maybe something. But this was only close just because both the teams couldn't really do anything. And then once the Seahawks started running the ball, then you knew things were just kind of over. 10-3 at halftime. Lions make it 10-6 going to the fourth quarter, but 16 points by the Seahawks kind of ends this thing quickly in the fourth quarter. 26-6 the final. And despite the score being close, I never felt like the Lions at any point were going to overtake the Seahawks.
No.
The Seahawks were pretty much in control of this game the whole time. Thomas Rawls in the running game just did its thing. And, you have a lot of people all of a sudden saying, well, the Seahawks are back to being the Seahawks, running the ball and establishing themselves and blah, blah, blah. They played the Lions, who haven't been great down the stretch. It showed in this game. I don't want to take, like most of these games, I don't know if there's too much to even take out of it into the next round.
No.
But, at the very much, the Seahawks can run the football if you want to learn anything from this game.
All the advanced metrics in the NFL, if you look at the Lions, you see a team that's basically the Chargers that got all the breaks. They're I'm not saying they're a bad team, but they are not at the same level as the Seahawks. So it's real easy to get all fired up about the Seahawks and say, okay, this team's going to be dangerous in the playoffs and all that. I don't think that's necessarily the case. They played a bad team and they won. I will give Pete Carroll credit. When they saw that they couldn't get the passing game going, they went to the run, which was nice. And, Lou Rawls, or what's his name? Thomas Rawls. Lou Rawls is the singer. They got it done, but this didn't make me feel any better about the Seahawks. I'm not too worried about them doing much. I think Atlanta's going to just have their way with them.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, not too much to talk about this game, so you move on to that one. And the Seahawks going into Atlanta they play early Saturday, right? Yeah, early Saturday this week. So the full week for the Seahawks.
Man, my Falcons can't get any respect.
Well, let's see. They're playing on Fox. They're not relegated to the NBC game or anything like that. But
they're like 4 o'clock on Saturday too, right? So that's not as bad.
Yeah, 1 o'clock Pacific, 1:30 Pacific. So earlier in the season, these two teams played in Seattle, and the Falcons, it was a close game. They were driving late. They probably should have won that game, but a bad non-call on a pass interference was just totally blatant against Julio Jones late in the game. Didn't advance the Falcons. They didn't have an opportunity to score, and they lost by, I think, like a point or two to Seattle on the road. But I think since then, the Falcons have shown the offenses is up there. Matt Ryan is obviously an MVP candidate. From all sources, he's the MVP favorite. He was named the first-team All-Pro quarterback for the season. But the Falcons have been known to lay some eggs, no comment between these two bird teams. But they've been known to lay some eggs in the Georgia Dome. At home, especially coming off a bye. Seattle does get a little momentum from winning, and if Seattle's going to win this game, obviously the Falcons can throw the football with everybody else, but if the Seahawks can run the ball and control this game, maybe things swing in their favor. They have some momentum,
Definitely.
In their sails. I see a way where the Seahawks can win this game, but I think if you're the Falcons, you're much happier to be playing the Seahawks than you would be the Packers at this point.
Well, the thing with the Falcons is that they've got an incredible offense. They can just score points. They've got a ton of weapons. They've got Jones, Devontae Freeman. They've got a lot going on. Matt Ryan's playing great this year. Their issue is they have no defense to speak of. None. So you're right. If Seattle can find a way to control this game, they could win it pretty easily because the trick to beating Atlanta is simply to keep their offense off the field. They're not going to be able to stop you. But if you can, obviously, you want to talk about like things that sound really simple when you say them, but it's as simple as that. The Seahawks can win this game. There's a much easier path to victory for the Seahawks against Atlanta than there is for the Texans against the Patriots. And the Seahawks, if they can run, the Atlanta defense is not good. And the thing the Seahawks just need to avoid to have their best shot at this is to stay out of a shootout with the Falcons, and they could win. Yeah, I don't know if they're going to be able to do that, but that's the way they would have to get it done.
Yeah, I don't think the Seahawks are. I don't think anybody thinks the Seahawks are as good as they have been in the past, but they can still pull that game out of them sometimes. Yep. They're fully capable of it. I just don't know if they're as capable in years past. But on the same, the flip of that coin with the Falcons look like they're a world beater, but they also have been known to lose games like this.
I'm still all in on the Falcons, but just be careful with these Seahawks because, like you said, they can get things clicking, and when they do, they're very tough to beat.
2nd and 7, and what a catch by Brown, and he slashes right past the secondary, and he's taken off for a second touchdown in the first 8 minutes. Is Brown breaking it? 50 yards and a touchdown. His first postseason touchdown. Antonio Brown, 3rd and 5. They go to Bell. Bell slashes. He's got the record, postseason record, and he's got the end zone.
In what was probably easily the biggest blowout, not necessarily in terms of score maybe, but in terms of the way it looked. The Steelers and the Dolphins. Steelers were up 14-3 after the first quarter, and that was that.
They were up 14-3 before it seemed like the first commercial break. It was like people just sat down and the Steelers were already up 14.
Yeah, Steelers go up 20-3 early in the second quarter, and Matt Moore ended up leading the game in passing yardage, which is nice, but
he doesn't remember any of it.
Yeah, it was just clear that the Steelers were that much better than the Dolphins from the very get-go. Just offensively, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, everything was working for the Steelers. And the Dolphins just didn't have it. The Steelers were a 10-point favorite going into this one, and they ended up winning by 18. So the Dolphins just couldn't do anything. And then, Matt Moore looked like he got freaking concussed, and a play later comes back and looks like he's not there at all. But I don't know if that was really going to change the way the Dolphins were going to play in this game.
No.
The Steelers were just better from the get-go.
I'm really liking this Steelers team. The defense, which was shaky all season, is starting to come into form a little bit, and they can score points. Again, I still say our best hope for a non-Patriot Super Bowl are these Pittsburgh Steelers. They looked pretty good in this game. And remember, the Dolphins ran them out of the building back in October, whatever it was,
right,
in Miami. But the Steelers are getting it together. Le'Veon Bell, I think, broke the single-game playoff record in rushing for the Steelers in this game, didn't he?
29 carries, 167 yards.
Yeah, he broke Franco Harris's old record from back in the mid-70s. So they can get it done. The big three's healthy. You got Roethlisberger, Brown, and Bell. If the defense plays pretty well, the Steelers team is going to be a tough out for anybody. And I still like them to go to the Super Bowl out of the AFC. I really liked what I saw on Sunday.
Yeah, I think of the teams that played this weekend, the Steelers might be the one that showed the most. Maybe you wanted to see, especially going into the second round.
Yeah.
They get a tough test, coming out of it. They get to go to Kansas City, who, much like the Steelers having a rebound game against the Dolphins after being blitzed by the Dolphins early in the season, the Steelers beat the hell out of the Chiefs 43-14 in week 4 of the season. So the Chiefs looking for a little revenge against the Steelers as well. But the Steelers are on a roll. The Chiefs have the week off. The Steelers have won 8 in a row now. And again, they looked as solid as you want a team to look going into Sunday. And, it's not going to, whatever the weather ends up being in Kansas City, it's not something that's going to affect Pittsburgh, who's used to it.
Right.
Being in freaking Pittsburgh.
There is one thing that Ben Roethlisberger came to the post-game press conference wearing a walking boot. I guess he got rolled on or something in the game. So there's a concern you might want to have if you're a Steelers fan.
It's a little concern, but from most reports, it's just kind of a precautionary thing to keep the swelling down initially, and that he should be okay. And I mean, God, we've seen Ben Roethlisberger play through more than that.
Yes.
So I think he's going to be just fine when it comes to
Steelers Chiefs. This could be a very good game. I don't know though, man. I like I said, I love those Chiefs. I'd love to get on board with them, but their offense just troubles me. It just Alex Smith and the offense just worries me. And you look at it, of the two teams, the one I think has better potential to score 38 points is the Steelers.
Yes.
And I think the Steelers have the better coach. Despite what Terry Bradshaw might think, I think Mike Tomlin's a great NFL head coach. I think he's proven that.
Yeah.
Andy Reid is going to call timeout on the third play of the game. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the Steelers did score 43 on the Chiefs earlier, so they can score, and they held them to 14. If you just take that game, you got a lot of different things that obviously go in the Steelers' favor. But the Chiefs 12-4, the Steelers are 11-5 now, 8-game winning streak. I like you, and like we've said a lot before, I just don't have faith that the Chiefs are a good enough team at the end of the day.
I want to have the faith. I just don't have it.
Yeah. They're 12-4. They look good sometimes, but they just don't have that extra oomph, I guess, is the only way I can put it. That extra little bit that makes a team like the Patriots, or even makes the Steelers at some points.
Well, you look at what we've got left in the playoffs. Okay, you've got the Steelers who are going to be playing the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. You've got Ben Roethlisberger, who I think is an elite quarterback, against Alex Smith. Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. You've got Tom Brady, I think we can all agree is an elite quarterback, Brock Osweiler. So
yeah.
this is where the differences start coming into play here. That's why I don't have a lot of faith in the Chiefs. I think Alex Smith is as far as game managers go, he's probably the best one in the business. But you need more than that to make a Super Bowl, especially in this era. You've got to have the guy. You've got to have the Roethlisberger, the Brady, the Rodgers. That's what you need to have. And the Chiefs don't have that. That's what concerns me the most about them.
Yeah, and you look at the Steelers. You got Roethlisberger, who's obviously a different quarterback than he was earlier in his career, throwing the ball now. Le'Veon Bell, who can run the hell out of football. Antonio Brown, who's a dangerous receiver. And you compare that to what the Chiefs will throw at you with Alex Smith and Tyreek Evans as the wide receiver. And who's the running back now?
Where? I can't remember his first name.
DeMarcus? No, not DeMarcus.
Andre?
Yeah.
Andre Ware. But he's a good, solid running back. But again, you match these guys up player for player, and the Steelers have the advantage in every box. Better quarterback, better running back, better wide receiver.
Yeah.
Chiefs are good on defense. They've got good special teams, but I just, as much as I love them, I don't know what the line is in this game, but I'd pick the Steelers to win this as much as I'd hate to.
Yeah. And I say Tyreek Hill for the Chiefs. Their best receiver is their tight end, Travis Kelce.
Yeah, he's great too. But again, is that enough? I don't think so.
I don't know.
You've got to get Alex Smith to be willing to throw more than 10 yards down the field to try to hit Kelce on a big play. Mm-hmm. And that's where game manager versus, gunslinger comes into play.
I think who this comes down to ultimately is the Chiefs defense. If the Chiefs defense, which can be good, has a nice front, has some, great secondary players with guys like Eric Berry, if they can play up to snuff and hold down the Steelers, then you got a game. Then you got a chance for the Chiefs offense to do it's enough to put them over. So to me, it comes down to what the Chiefs defense will do against the Steelers. If the Chiefs have any shot at winning this game at the end of it.
This has got to be like a 27-17 game for the Chiefs. That's how they win this game.
Yeah.
They're not going to win a 38-31 game against the Steelers. I just don't see it happening. It's got to be a 27-17 type thing where the Chiefs have enough offense to get enough points on the board to beat the Steelers, but they've got to keep that offense off the field. That's how they win. That's their path to victory in this one.
Rodgers end zone. Touchdown, Cobb. Looks like Rodgers is getting a hot hand. There's Cobb. There's a touchdown. Green Bay. They're going to air it out. Rodgers does this better than anybody. End zone. Cobb. Touchdown. Unbelievable.
The final game of the weekend, Sunday. What'd you think about these Giants-Packers game there, Greg?
This was the Charles Dickens game, a tale of two halves.
Yeah, it was, I don't even know if it was tale of two halves. I think it's...
Tale of two quarters.
Tale of the first, what would that be? How many minutes? The first 29 minutes?
Yeah.
The first 29 minutes and 45 seconds. And the last play of the first half and the rest of the second half. Look, I think early in this game, it looked like the Giants were in control. They were controlling the flow of play. They were having the opportunities, but the thing that I think ultimately damned them in the end of this was they didn't capitalize on them.
Right.
They had drop balls in the end zone. They had opportunities to score touchdowns, and they came out with 1 field goal and 2 field goals in the first half.
Yep. And that hurt them a lot because early on, this was looking like this was going to be exactly what everybody said the Giants were designed to do. This was going to be a 17-10 Giants win at Lambeau where the defense was going to rule the day. It was going to be boring and ugly, but the Giants are going to walk away with the win.
Yeah,
and then early on, it really looked like that a lot. But the Packers, let's not forget, before that Hail Mary, did manage to drive down and get 1 touchdown.
Right.
They were up 7-6. And then you think, okay, the Packers have found a way to get the offense going a little bit. But the backbreaker in the first half, at least, was the Hail Mary, which I don't know how he does it at this point.
It's insane, his ability there. But I think there's two things that turn this game for me. It's that the Giants didn't capitalize early, and once the Packers went ahead 7-6, I thought, oh no, the Giants are going to be in real trouble here because they're not scoring, and now they're down, even though it's just a point. And then combine the Giants' early struggles with that Hail Mary at the end of the half, which a lot of people are throwing it out there. We should change it to something else because if he does it, it's just so easy. Well, okay. It's still an impossible play. The fact that he does it routinely still makes it insane.
I think that what you've got here is he's hit, 3 of them in the last year?
Yeah.
Which is an insanely high success rate for that play. They just happen to come within, not like 3 in a row necessarily, but 3 of them within a time span that made it look like he's really good at this. No, it was every bit as lucky as it is any other time anybody hits one. It's just it's a statistical mirage sort of thing where it's like it looks like there's more there than there really is.
Yeah.
With this,
so with the Giants not converting, and then the Packers go up 14-6 going to halftime, and they take that momentum into the second half and they start to run with it. Things get close when the Packers. They go for it.
Wanted, here's the way I looked at it.
Yeah.
The Packers basically got a free touchdown to end the first half. Just handed. Really, that's it. It was a free touchdown. And then you come out in the second half and you all but just give it back. They went forward on 4th and 1 inside their own 40. And I have never screamed at a TV the way I did in my life. I'm like, what are you doing? And then I thought, okay, they're just going to come out. Rodgers is going to do the old, try to get him to jump. And if not, they'll take the 5-yard penalty. And then I look up and I'm like, there's 26 seconds on the play clock. He's not going to stand there for a half a minute. Oh my God, they're actually going to do this. And they run it. They don't get it. Eli hits a touchdown on the next play. And it's like, oh, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah. But, to their credit, didn't deter them any. They came right back, scored, and started pulling away late in this thing. 38-13. They had gone ahead and it wasn't that big of a deficit really until the Eli Manning fumble, which was one of the, on the podcast you and I both listened to, the Bill Simmons Cousin Sal thing. They said it was like the greatest defensive play of the season.
It was pretty incredible. It really was.
It wasn't that incredible. It's just for a single effort where you got a guy that does a strip sack and then forces a fumble again and recovers it because
here's my thing on
everyone thought the play was over. It looked like an incomplete pass, but it was a fumble.
I think what you got to give Clay Matthews credit for most on that play is that he was the guy that realized the whistle hadn't blown.
Right, yeah.
That's pretty. I don't know that it was necessarily the greatest play of all time. I wouldn't go that route, but that's what it was. He was paying attention and the other guys weren't, and that's how it worked out. But the Packers, I don't know what they found in that second half, but all of a sudden Randall Reggie Cobb was open and Rodgers was hitting him and they were scoring and they were just doing whatever they wanted against a team that we thought had a defense built for the playoffs and the Giants. And, we were all worried that the Giants were going to go back and it's going to be a rematch of Patriots-Giants, but you can hate the Packers all you want out there, people, but at least they did you that favor.
And the other thing that was just continually amazing me about guys like Rodgers, and especially in this game, the amount of time he had to throw the football on some of these plays.
Which he did not have in the first half, if you remember. They were all over him, sacked for, I think, 5 times in the first half, or 4 at least.
Well, even when he was, but on the early touchdown, he had like 12 seconds of just standing, moving around before he threw the touchdown pass. So while they were getting pressure to him, they would either get pressure to him or he would stand there for like 15 seconds and have no one to throw to until somebody got free.
Yep.
But when he was getting that type of protection, it's impossible to beat Rodgers and that Packers receiving core. If you can't get to him and you give his receivers time to get open, then you have that. The downside, though, when it comes to the Packers receiving core, they do lose Jordy Nelson
again.
I don't know if he's going to be ready for this week, but he took a big helmet right in the ribs.
Yeah, I heard he had broken 2 ribs.
Yeah, I would think that he wouldn't be playing next week then.
No.
So that's a big hit. They have played without him before, but obviously the Packers are a much more dangerous team with him than without him. But they still have plenty of guys that they can throw to, whether it's Cobb or
Devontae
Adams, Richie Rodgers,
Geronimo Allen, I think is his name.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you not love a guy named Geronimo? Come on.
Right. But the Packers look as good as you want them to look, at least in this first game at home. Now comes the tough one on the road, luckily in a dome, but playing a Cowboys team which looked as good or better than every other team in the entire league. Maybe except for the Patriots, or right up there with them. A running game with Ezekiel Elliott, an effective passing game with Dak Prescott. Both rookies, both playing in their first game, both coming off a bye. And the Packers now won 7 in a row and are hot. Hard to say.
Here's what I see with this game with the Cowboys and Packers. The Packers can shut down Dak Prescott in the passing game. Or they can shut down Ezekiel Elliott in the running game. What they can't do is both. And that's going to be their problem. And I think what they'll end up doing is they're going to shut down the passing game, and Ezekiel Elliott is going to run all over them, and that's going to be the difference in the football game. I mean, the Packers are red hot right now. They did what I think no one thought they were going to do when they blew out this Giants team. But I don't think they match up well against the Cowboys. The Cowboys are, multifaceted, which is why they're 14-2 or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. They've got, a good running game, probably the best running game with Ezekiel Elliott. And then they've also got a passing game that's very effective with Prescott and Bryant and, the ageless wonder at tight end. I can't think of his name at the moment.
Jason Witten. Yeah.
I don't know that the Packers defense has enough to stop all of that. And whatever they concentrate on, they're going to get burnt on the other one. I'd love to see it, but I think that's going to be the issue for the Packers in this one.
And I think another thing that, the Cowboys defense is maybe overlooked because of all the stars they've had on offense this season, but the Cowboys defense is just as good as anybody else too. They can establish that pass rush. And again, if that front seven can get to Aaron Rodgers early, or at least get to him at all, consistently through the game, then the Packers are going to have a tough time. And I think that's one of the key matchups to look for going into the weekend.
One thing, too, you might want to think about with this one, just something to think about, is that you've got Dak Prescott has never started a playoff game before. I don't think that's going to matter, but it could play a role. You never know.
All right. So at the end of the college football bowl season, the picks ended up as such. Greg, you finished 23-18. I finished 20-21 as we both lost the Alabama game. So you win the college football portion of the program. So through last weekend, we were both 3-1. We both picked the Steelers and Seahawks. You picked the Packers. I picked the Texans in those respective games. So 3-1. Going into the divisional round, Seahawks, Falcons. Who you got?
I'm taking my Falcons. I'm riding them all the way, man.
I'm going to go with the Falcons, too. I like the offense. I like them at home. And I just can't pick the Seahawks.
That might be part of it with me, too.
Texans, Patriots, I don't even know why I'm bothering asking, but who you got?
Boy, it would be fun to do the hot take thing and say, here's why the Texans are going to win this game. But then again, I sound like an idiot enough on my own. I don't need to add to that on purpose. Of course, the Patriots. I guess the only thing left is, do you think the Patriots will cover the 17?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I do.
Yeah, I do too. I will give you a hot take here. The Patriots are going to win by at least 24.
Steelers, Chiefs.
Oh, man, this is a tough one. My heart wants to go with the Chiefs. But you know what, though? Arrowhead is a very tough place to play, and that place is going to be going nuts. But my head says take the Steelers. I think the Steelers team... Yeah, I'm doing it. I'm taking the Steelers. I'm sorry. I'm a Chiefs fan, sort of. I mean, they're like my third on my list of favorite NFL teams, but I'm planning to win here. I got to go with the Steelers. I'm picking the Steelers in this.
I'm going to go with the Chiefs.
All right.
I like them at home. I think that they can score more points than we're giving them credit for. There's something to them this year as opposed to years past. I think they're a little bit more complete than they have been in years past. And I think the defense will be a big help, and I like them offensively. Final game, Packers, Cowboys.
I want to pick my Packers. I really do, but I think Dallas wins this game pretty easily. I just don't think the Packers have enough defense to contain all of the Dallas offense. That's going to be the big difference.
I got to go Dallas, too. I think these Cowboys are fun, and I think the Packers' magic has to run out at some point, and I think it's now when they play a team not in 5-degree weather, and a team that's been pretty explosive all season.
And the Packers have not been good on the road for the past couple of years either. You got to take that into consideration too.
They are 4-4 on the road this season, where the Cowboys are 7-1 at home. But that'll do it for this week on Basically a Football Show. Follow us on all of our platforms: Stitcher, Spreaker, iTunes, Facebook. Follow the rest of the Basically a Podcast network. And any last words before we go?
Go Pack. Go Chiefs.
Go
and Falcons. Sorry.
Go teams I picked, because I like being right. For Greg, I'm Zach. This is the Basically Football Show. Enjoy your divisional round of playoff football.